The wind howled across the alien jungle as the rescue ship crashed into the thick trees. Flames rose behind it, and smoke filled the strange blue sky. 14-year-old Jason Miller coughed as he crawled out of the wreckage. His father, a space engineer, was unconscious beside him. They were supposed to pick up survivors from a lost Earth science base. But something had gone wrong. Very wrong. Jason shook his father, but he didn't wake up. A deep growl echoed nearby. Jason's heart froze. He grabbed the small emergency kit and the stun gun from the wall. Then he looked around. The jungle was alive, with sounds he had never heard before. Insects the size of footballs flew past. Strange birds with 4 wings circled overhead. Every tree seemed to move, even when there was no wind. Jason had been trained in survival basics. But this was different. This was a death world. He dragged his father behind a fallen log and covered him with emergency foil. Then, gripping the stun gun tightly, he began to explore, hoping to find shelter or help. But what he found changed his life forever. He heard shouting, strange guttural voices. He crouched low and moved toward the sound. Behind a wall of glowing vines, he saw a group of tall aliens surrounding a girl. She was not like them. Her skin was silver blue, and her hair glowed softly like starlight. Her wrists were tied. She stood proud, unafraid, even as the others jeered, and pointed weapons at her. One of them raised a metal rod to strike her. Jason didn't think. He jumped out from the vines, aimed his stun gun, and fired. The rod-wielding alien dropped to the ground, twitching. The others screamed in shock and pointed their weapons at him. Jason fired again and again, his hand shaking but steady. 2 more fell. The rest ran into the trees, yelling something in their language. Jason stood there, breathing hard, unsure if he had done the right thing. The alien girl looked at him, her glowing eyes wide with surprise. She said something in a soft voice. Jason shook his head. "I don't understand," he said. She tilted her head, then slowly spoke in broken English. "You saved me?" Jason nodded. "Yeah. Are you okay?" She looked down at her ropes and gave a small smile. Jason stepped forward and cut them with his knife. The girl fell to her knees for a moment, then stood tall. "You, not warrior. You, child." Jason blushed. "I'm 14. She looked at him again, really looked. "Your heart is strong. For me, you fight." "Why?" Jason hesitated, then shrugged. "Because it was the right thing to do." She nodded slowly. Then she stepped closer and touched his cheek lightly. "I am Lyra," she said. "Daughter of Chiron, heir of the 3rd moon." Jason blinked. "I'm just Jason. From Earth." Lyra's smile grew. "Earth is far. You are far from home, Jason of Earth." He looked down. "Yeah, my dad's hurt. I need help." Her smile faded. "Danger is near. You must leave. Now." "I can't," Jason said. "Not without my father." Lyra paused. Then she turned and whistled into the forest. A moment later, a beast the size of a horse but with 6 legs and fur like black smoke stepped out. Jason took a step back, but Lyra raised her hand. "Friend." The beast sniffed the air, then gently bowed its head. "He will carry your father to safety," Lyra said. "Follow the beast, he knows the way." Jason hesitated. "What about you?" She looked up at the sky, where a strange light was blinking. "I must return to my people, but I hope you come back." "Come back?" Jason asked. Lyra stepped closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Come back when you are older, stronger. The one who saves may also one day claim." Jason didn't understand, but her words stayed in his mind. "I'll come back," he said softly. She smiled, truly smiled, and then stepped back into the forest. Jason carried his father to the beast and watched it carry him away, following behind as fast as he could. He kept looking back, but Lyra was gone. When they finally reached a recovery ship days later, Jason was safe. But something inside him had changed. He never forgot the girl with starlight hair and glowing eyes, and her promise. People said it was just a boy's fantasy. They said he imagined the alien girl with glowing eyes, that no one from a noble alien bloodline would speak to a human child, let alone ask him to return. They told him to move on, grow up, forget. But Jason Miller never forgot, even after Earth's medics healed his father, even after the government agents erased the incident from official records, even after his own father told him gently, "Son, maybe it was just a dream." But Jason knew, the feel of her hand on his face, the fire in her golden eyes, the way she had said, "Come back when you are older." It wasn't a dream. He grew older, stronger. While others played sports and chased careers, Jason studied alien languages, combat survival, and interplanetary history. He learned everything he could about the world she came from, Valara Prime, a noble but divided empire. He even found old stories buried deep in the archives, tales of a silver-blue race, of a royal daughter once marked for sacrifice during a civil rebellion. Jason's heart skipped every time he read one of those stories. Was that her? He wondered. Was Lyra the one they wrote about? But there were no photos, no names, no proof, only the memory, her voice, her promise. Then one night, 7 years later, his datapad blinked with a strange encrypted message. It had no sender, no location, just one word. Ready. Jason's breath caught. It wasn't signed, but he knew. Lyra. He didn't hesitate. He packed a small case. Armor, translator, blade, backup power cells. No questions, no delays. He booked a private freighter headed to the Outer Rim and paid with all the credits he had saved since he was 14. The captain, an old smuggler, raised an eyebrow. "You're going to Valara? That place is boiling with warlords. Why?" Jason just smiled. "I made a promise." When his ship landed on Valara's surface, the planet had changed. The once bright skies were now thick with ash and smoke. Fires burned in distant cities. Banners of different clans flew over broken buildings. The jungle where Jason had once walked as a scared boy now looked like a battlefield, but he didn't come this far to turn back. He activated his scanner and followed the only signal he could trace, an ancient Valaran beacon. It led him to a cliff overlooking a burned village. Bodies lay in the streets. Broken machines sparked. And in the middle of it all, a figure stood tall watching the horizon. Jason stepped closer. The figure turned. His heart stopped. It was her, but not the same. Lyra was no longer a girl. She wore warrior armor, sleek, silver, and marked with battle scars. Her hair was tied back, still glowing softly. Her eyes, fierce, but older, sharper, and sadder. She looked at him and said the same words he had heard all those years ago. "You're late." Jason walked forward slowly. "You called me," he said. Lyra's expression didn't change. "I hoped you would come, but hope is a dangerous thing on this world." "I remembered everything," he said. "I trained. I prepared. I came back for you." There was silence. Then Lyra finally whispered, "Many die for less noble reasons." Jason looked around the destroyed village. "What happened here?" "My people are divided," she said. "I lead what remains of my house. But others want the throne. They want power. And they want me. To marry one of them. To unite the tribes." She looked away. "But I waited. I told them. I already gave my word to someone." Jason's heart pounded. "Me?" he asked. Lyra looked into his eyes. "You saved me. As a boy. Not because of politics. Not because of power. But because it was right. That means more than blood." She paused. "But you are still human. You have no claim here." Unless... Jason stepped forward. Unless what? She raised her hand and pointed to the mountains in the distance. Unless you pass the trial of fire. If you survive it, no one can deny you. Not even the council. Jason took a deep breath. I'll do it. Lyra finally smiled. A small, broken smile. I knew you would, she said softly. The boy I met is now the man I waited for. Jason never imagined silence could be this loud. He followed Lyra through the shattered jungle, past blackened trees and cracked stone paths where alien statues once stood. The world he remembered, glowing, strange, full of life, was now quiet. Burned, watching. He glanced at Lyra from behind. Her long silver-blue hair was tied into a warrior's braid. Her shoulders were tense. Her hand never left the hilt of her blade. She had changed, and Jason could feel it in every step she took. When he first saw her again on the cliff, he had wanted to run up and hold her, to tell her everything. How he had waited, trained, dreamed. But now, he wasn't sure if she would even let him touch her, sir. They walked for an hour in silence until they reached a large clearing guarded by two beast-like sentries. The sentries growled as Jason approached, their yellow eyes glowing in the dim jungle light. But Lyra raised her hand and they backed away without a word. Your presence is tolerated, she said. For now. Jason raised an eyebrow. That's comforting. She gave a slight smirk, but it vanished just as quickly. They entered, a hidden war camp. Alien warriors in sleek armor turned and stared. Some narrowed their eyes, others whispered in their language. Jason couldn't understand the words, but he understood the looks. Outsider, intruder, weakling. Lyra led him to her command tent, made of dark cloth, hung with glowing stones and tribal symbols. Once inside, she turned and finally looked him in the eye. I brought you here for one reason, she said. To test your worth. Jason nodded. I figured. Lyra moved closer, her voice low. The trial of fire begins in 3 days. If you pass, the council must honor your claim. You will have earned the right to challenge any suitor, including General Kor. Jason stiffened. And if I fail, you leave this world. Forever. He stared at her for a moment. You used to smile more, he said quietly. Lyra blinked. For a second, just one, the cold mask cracked. Then she turned away. Smiling is for children. And peace. Jason stepped closer. You said you waited for me. I did, she said. But I also survived. Every day, every battle. I didn't wait in silence, Jason. I waited with blood on my hands. He looked down. I understand. No, she snapped. You don't. She grabbed a thin blade from her belt and threw it at the tent wall. It landed inches from his face. I watched my people fall, she whispered. I knelt to save lives. I said no to monsters. And now they say I must say yes to one. Jason clenched his fists. Then say yes to me. Lyra turned sharply, her eyes flared. You haven't earned that yet. Outside, a horn echoed. Lyra's expression changed. Stay here, she said. Do not leave the tent. She stepped out. Jason waited. For maybe 2 seconds. Then he followed. What he saw outside froze his blood. A group of alien prisoners had been brought in, wounded, chained, weak. Among them was a young girl, no older than 10, with the same silver-blue skin as Lyra. She was crying. One of the warriors raised his hand to strike her. Jason moved without thinking. He grabbed the warrior's arm mid-air. Touch her again, he growled, and I'll break your spine. The camp went silent. Weapons came out. Lyra appeared between them like lightning. Stand down, she barked. Her warriors obeyed. But their eyes burned with anger. She turned to Jason, her face unreadable. You disobeyed me. Jason looked at the child. She looked like you. I couldn't stay inside. Lyra didn't speak for a long time. Then she turned to the guards. "Release the child, feed her, heal her." Jason blinked. Lyra looked at him again. "You still see the world like that boy in the jungle," she said. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing." That night, in the tent, Lyra didn't sleep. She sat by the fire, sharpening her blade. Jason lay nearby, watching her in the low glow of the flames. "Why me?" he asked softly. "Out of all the people in the galaxy, why did you tell me to return?" She didn't look up, but she answered, "Because when I was broken, a human boy saved me, and part of me believed maybe only he could do it again." Jason whispered, "Then I won't let you down." Lyra didn't smile, but her voice was gentle when she said, "You'd better not." The camp was quiet, but Jason couldn't sleep. He lay on the cold floor of the war tent, watching the flames flicker. Lyra sat across from him, sharpening her twin blades in silence. The fire's light danced across her silver-blue skin, making her look both fierce and lonely. She hadn't spoken since the prisoner incident earlier that day. Jason had stood up for a crying child and nearly got himself killed for it, but now, he wondered if that moment had done more than just anger the warriors. Maybe it had reminded Lyra of something she tried hard to forget. "Do you regret calling me back?" Jason asked quietly. Lyra didn't look up. "No," she said. "But I regret needing you." Jason sat up. "Why?" "Because if you die in the trial," she whispered, "it will be my fault." There was a long silence. Then Lyra finally put her blades down and looked at him. "You think I'm strong," she said. "A warrior, a leader. But I was never meant to carry a blade." Jason frowned. "You saved your people." She gave a bitter smile. "I was supposed to be sold, traded like property to General Corps to keep the bloodline clean and the clans united. That was my fate. Obey or watch my people burn." She paused. "But then, 7 years ago, a human boy jumped between me and a death blow. He didn't know me. He had no army, no name, just a heart big enough to fight monsters." Her eyes flickered in the firelight. "That moment ruined everything," she said softly. Jason blinked. "Ruined?" Lyra nodded. "It gave me hope." She stood up and walked toward the open flap of the tent. Jason followed her outside. The sky above was black and full of stars. Far off, thunder rolled from the warfront. But here, under this broken sky, Lyra finally told him the truth. "I refused. Corps. I told him I'd given my promise to another." Jason's heart skipped. "Me?" "Yes," she whispered. "But not just as a romantic tale." She turned to face him, her voice steady now. "I said it because I needed time. I needed a reason to stall. And the memory of you gave me strength." Jason stepped closer. "So, I was your excuse." "At first," she admitted. "But over time, the memory became something else." She touched her chest lightly. "A place I could hide when everything else broke." Jason's voice was low. "You shouldn't have had to survive like that." "I had no choice," Lyra said, "and I still don't, unless you pass the trial." Jason took a deep breath. "Then I will." "You don't understand," she said quickly. "The trial of fire is not a fight. It's not about blades or strength. It's about soul." "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "It shows you your worst fear, your deepest pain, your greatest failure. It burns away lies and pride. And if you're not ready," her voice shook, "you'll break." Jason stepped forward and gently placed his hand over hers. "I've carried only one memory for 7 years. You," he said, "so let it burn me. I'll walk through fire for you." Lyra's eyes widened. For the first time, they shimmered, with tears. She looked away quickly. "You shouldn't say that." "Why not?" "Because if you mean it, then I have something to lose." The wind blew gently through the broken trees. Lyra turned her back to him and whispered, You've already passed part of the trial, Jason. You just don't know it yet. Later that night, when the camp slept, Jason sat alone by the fire, thinking. The trial wasn't just a test. It was the key to her freedom. And maybe it was the only way to bring peace to a broken world. In the distance, drums began to beat. The trial was coming, and this time, it wouldn't just test Jason's strength, it would test his heart. They called it the trial of fire, but it was not a battle of swords. It was a battle of the soul. Jason stood at the edge of the ancient temple carved into the mountain's heart. Black stone steps led downward into a pit of glowing red mist. Alien. Markings older than the stars pulsed softly on the walls, symbols of pain, sacrifice, and truth. Around him, warriors from every tribe had gathered in silence. No one cheered. No one wished him luck, because no one expected the human to return alive. From a raised stone platform, the elders stood in ceremonial robes. One of them, a woman with silver skin and golden horns, raised a hand. You may still turn back, outsider, she said. No shame will follow. This trial is not for your kind. Jason stepped forward without flinching. I didn't come for glory, he said. I came for her. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some laughed, others growled. But Lyra, standing beside the elders, said nothing. Only her eyes moved, watching him carefully, painfully. The elder continued. If you enter, the fire will show you your truth, your weakness, your shame. If your heart breaks, you die inside. If your mind snaps, you never return. Jason nodded once. I understand. Then he stepped into the mist. The air burned around him, not like heat, but like memory. Each breath pulled something out of him. His doubts, his regrets, his fears, they all came alive. Suddenly, he wasn't in the temple anymore. He was back on Earth. His teenage self stood in the mirror. Skinny, weak, afraid. Who are you trying to impress? The reflection said. She's a princess, you're nothing. The room cracked and faded. He was on Valara again, in the wreckage. Only this time, he had arrived too late. Lyra lay dying, her blood glowing on the jungle floor. You said you'd come back, she whispered. He dropped to his knees, screaming. The vision shattered. Now he stood in a black void, alone. A voice whispered in his ear. Do you really love her? Or just the idea of saving her? Jason gasped. Another voice. His own. You trained for years, but not for peace. You trained for a fantasy. You wanted to be the hero. But what if she doesn't need saving? Then the ground beneath him caught fire. Out of the flame stepped General Kor, 7 feet tall, armored in red steel, eyes like fire. She needs a king, not a boy with a crush, Kor roared. She was mine before she ever looked at you. Jason grabbed a blade from the ashes and charged. They fought, steel against fire, pain against pride. Jason screamed as he was knocked back again and again, but each time he stood, bleeding, burned, unbroken. Then came the final vision, a soft one, quiet. Lyra sat under the stars, in the jungle, alone. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I didn't want a savior, she whispered. I wanted someone to stand beside me and never leave. Jason stepped into the vision. Then I won't. And the fire disappeared. The pain vanished. The temple reformed around him. He stood, shaking but alive, on the glowing stone floor. Outside, silence fell. Then the elder's voice echoed across the chamber. He has passed. The crowd gasped. Even Lyra covered her mouth in shock. Jason stepped out, his body scarred but his eyes burning with clarity. He looked at the elders. I claim my right to challenge for her, the warriors shouted in protest. Impossible. He's just a man. But Lyra raised her hand. He is not just a man, she said quietly. He is the one I chose. The fire had accepted him. But now, the galaxy had to. Jason stepped out of the trial temple, his body marked with burns and cuts but his back straight. his eyes sharp. The crowd that had once doubted him stood frozen in silence. No one laughed now. Even the wind seemed to pause. And then, from the far end of the circle, a horn blew. The challenge was complete. He had passed what no alien dared attempt. He was no longer just the human boy. He was a man who had walked through his own hell and returned stronger. Lyra stood before the council of elders dressed in royal armor, her crown resting lightly on her brow. Jason walked toward her, each step echoing like thunder across the stone platform. The elder with golden horns raised her voice. By ancient law, he has earned the right to make his claim. Let it be heard. Jason didn't flinch. He spoke loud and clear. I claim my right, not as a warrior, not as a conqueror, but as the one she chose. Gasps, murmurs, shock. Some of the alien nobles stood up, others shouted in protest, but no one could deny the truth. He had faced the trial, and the trial had not broken him. Lyra stepped forward. Their eyes met. 7 years of memory and silence swirled in that moment. I do not deny him, she said. The council stared. One of the elders, voice cold, hissed, You understand what this means, princess? If you bind with him, no union with General Kor will be possible. No alliance, no treaty. Lyra didn't blink. I'd rather walk into war beside someone I trust than kneel beside someone I fear. Suddenly, a loud voice rang out from the edge of the court. You choose a child over a champion. Everyone turned. There he stood. General Kor, 7 feet tall, red armor gleaming, a scar across his jaw. His eyes were locked on Jason with burning hatred. Kor stepped into the circle, slowly, his voice like thunder. He passed the trial, fine. But that makes him a warrior, not a king. And not your equal. Jason didn't move. But inside, his heart began to race. Lyra stepped forward. The trial grants him the right to challenge you, Kor. The general smirked. I was hoping you'd say that. A second trial was about to begin, not one of soul, but of steel. The crowd backed away as the duel was declared. No weapons from the outside, only what could be drawn from the sacred pit. Kor cracked his knuckles and pulled a heavy blade from the altar. Jason stepped forward and picked something smaller. A short dagger, balanced, fast. Kor laughed. Planning to tickle me, boy? Jason gave a small smile. Planning to move faster than your brain. The duel began with the clash of metal and roar of war. Kor attacked, with brute force swinging wide, loud, heavy, the kind of power that broke bones. But Jason danced. He ducked, dodged, slipped past Kor's strikes like water, cut once, then again. Quick slices, deep cuts. Not to kill, but to wear the giant down, the A. Crowd began to shift, eyes widened. This human, he wasn't just brave. He was smart and deadly. Blood dripped from Kor's arm, his leg, his pride. He screamed in rage and charged one final time. Jason slid under him and in a single motion, slashed the general's thigh and spun up behind him, placing the dagger to his throat. Yield, Jason said. Kor growled. Never. Jason pressed the blade harder. Then bleed. Silence fell. And then, finally, Kor dropped his blade. He stepped back, shaking, beaten, by a human. The crowd erupted. Not in cheers, but in stunned, respectful silence. Even those who doubted Jason now bowed their heads. Lyra walked to him, face calm, but her eyes, soft with something deep. Pride. Hope. Love. You were late, she whispered, just loud enough for him to hear. But you came back stronger than I ever dreamed. Jason smiled. You said to return when I was ready. She touched his chest. You're ready. The sword fell. The war paused, and the world held its breath. Jason stood tall, his dagger still wet with General Kor's blood. Around him, warriors from every clan stared in silence. They had expected a symbol, a joke, a weak outsider playing warrior. But they had witnessed something else. A human, who had walked through fire, faced his fears, and defeated their strongest. Lyra stepped beside him. She didn't touch him, not yet. But her presence was closer now, warmer, her voice rang clear. The trial is complete. The challenge is answered. I choose him. Whispers turned into waves, cheers mixed with growls. Some tribes bowed, others still held anger in their eyes, and one voice rose above them all. You think one duel changes fate? Core bloody, beaten, but still standing. He wasn't done. Kneel to that human, he growled at the crowd, and you surrender to weakness. He turned to his loyal soldiers. Strike them down. Now. Blades rose. Chaos returned. Jason's eyes widened. It's not over. Lyra stepped forward, her voice like steel. No, but this time, you don't fight alone. She whistled. One sharp note. From the trees, shadows moved. Lyra's secret army, hidden, loyal rebels who had waited for her signal. Dozens of cloaked warriors emerged, surrounding Core's men. And from the skies, Jason's old pilot friend, Captain Rhine, swooped in with a stolen Valaran gunship, weapons hot and locked. Jason smiled. Told you I had backup. The battle that followed was short, but fierce. Lyra and Jason fought back to back, like fire and wind. Every slash was a promise. Every dodge was trust. And when the final blast sent Core flying across the battlefield, the tribes knew. A new age had begun. By dusk, Core's flag was pulled down. Jason stood at the steps of the high platform, surrounded by firelight and alien eyes. Lyra climbed the final step with him. The elders approached once more, this time in silence. The horn was blown. The call of union. The ceremony was short, ancient, and powerful. No rings. No speeches, just two warriors holding hands in the middle of the battlefield where love had bloomed not from peace but from fire. One of the elders spoke. Let it be written, the princess chose not power but heart, not blood but soul, and so the clans shall follow. As night fell, stars lit up the sky. The people danced. The fires burned bright, and Jason, once just a boy lost in the jungle, now stood as the chosen of Valara. But he didn't care for titles. He only cared for her. Later, when the noise faded and the warriors slept, Lyra stood alone by the cliff where they had first reunited. Jason found her there, the wind playing with her silver hair. You didn't run this time, she said softly. I came back like I promised, he replied. She turned, and for the first time, with no fear, no mask, and no crown, she kissed him. The stars watched in silence. The war was over, but the real story was just beginning.